Amy. I am the Globetrotting Stitcher. I'm here with Gary, also a Globetrotting Stitcher. And we're happy to be back with you today. We hope you've all been well and stitching lots of beautiful, wonderful things. As usual, things have been busy around here, so we are looking forward to catching up with you today, and we have a lot of wonderful things to share with you. Wanted to share one fun thing that came in after our last video, which, by the way, thank you for all your fantastic comments on our last video. A lot of you seemed like you really enjoyed that one, particularly we actually got a comment from Sodi saying that Gary was extra sassy, and he's been extra sassy ever since. So I've been telling him that, and so thank you for giving me a new thing to say to him when he's getting out of control. But we got an email from some regular viewers of ours. Hugh and Andrea sent us this fantastic photo of our smallest fan. So their cat Oliver, who is adorable, they caught a photo of him watching one of our recent videos. He seemed pretty excited or interested in it, and so wanted to share that with you because we just thought it was really adorable. So hello Hugh and Andrea, and hello to Oliver. As far as what's been going on, like I said, it's just busy. Life is just busy, and I know you all completely can relate to that, especially as we get increasingly, as we're heading into the holiday season. It's always a very busy time. I've just returned from a work trip to Nairobi, and we'll talk a little bit more about travel later in the video. And then we also, the saga of the dogs and their travails continues. So shortly before I left on my last trip, or this most recent trip, Sophie we hadn't noticed any signs of that there was a problem, but she was, without getting into a lot of details, I noticed that when I was taking the dogs on their walks, she was going potty really frequently. And initially I thought, well, I'll keep an eye on it because maybe she's got like a little infection. But she wasn't showing any signs of needing to go potty frequently at home. It was just happening on walks. And so I thought, well, she must not have an infection. And so, things went on, and finally it was like I was starting to see signs that I was like, okay, even if she's not showing a lot of like the normal signs I would expect, I think there's something wrong. So got her into the vet right away, and it turned out she had a bladder infection as well as a skin infection, and she was pretty miserable. So thankfully, I was really thankful that we did get her in when we did, because it could have gotten pretty serious. But anyway, she's been on antibiotics for a couple of weeks. She is feeling a lot better. She's looking a lot better, and so hopefully we are done with dog drama for the rest of the year, because it's been one of those years. But yeah, she's doing a lot better. So thought you'd all be wanting to know about that. Anyway, I think there's not a whole lot else to share in terms of life updates. It's just been, like I said, very busy. So we will get into the stitching, because we know that's what you're all here for. So I have two finishes to share with you today. And the first one was a project that was in my seasonal category. So I have been working on Spring Delivery by Scattered Seed Samplers. I stitched this on a piece of 40 count Celestine linen by Fiber on a Whim. And the last time you saw this, because it's not a very large project, I was saying I expected to finish it when it came out again, and in fact I did. So the last time you saw it, I was filling in the Gentleman Rabbit, and I had started working on the chicks and the basket and some of the little elements that are in the background. So here is the finished project. So this is just really sweet and really cute. It's one of a set, so he has a lady friend that is really adorable as well, but he was just really fun to work on. I've really loved this project for a long time, and so even though he's not very big, it felt like it took me a long time to get through him, just because it seemed like every time he came up in my rotation, I was traveling, or I didn't have a lot of time to work on him. But it was really fun to get him finished up, and I love how he turned out. I think he's just really sweet. And I'm looking forward to getting him fully finished, because I've got a really cute frame for him. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, or sometime between now and the end of the year, I'll be able to get him framed and fully finished up to share with you. But that is my finish on Spring Delivery by Scattered Seed Samplers. That is, as I said, not my only finish. And so I am super, super excited to share with you that finally, after almost 7 years of stitching, I have finished Rose Trellis In by Heaven and Earth Designs. So this is my full coverage project that I have been working on since before we started this channel in 2020. As those of you who are regular watchers know, this is a project that I had really been pushing for a finish ever since the beginning of the year. Had kind of figured out coming into this year how many stitches I would need to do every month in order to get it finished by the end of the year. And for a long time, it felt like it was kind of a stretch goal to actually get it done by the end of the year. But the last couple of months, as I've gotten into the bottom row of pages, my weekly stitch counts have really accelerated. I've gotten a lot more stitches in when it's come up in rotation. And so I am super, super excited to be able to share this with you. So the last time you saw this, I had made really great progress. I was down to less than 1,600, just over 1,600 stitches to go for the finish. And I basically had finished everything except kind of a chunk of the roadway and then a couple little sections of flowers that were not finished. So I'm going to put it on the board here and hold it up and show you the finished project, and then we'll share some stats with you on this project. Now, let me just do that. All right. So here it is, finished up. Now, the unfortunate thing, I don't know what I was thinking, but yesterday in my jet lag brain, because I just got home day before yesterday, in my jet lag brain I was like, right, let's get this out, let's get it washed, let's get it blocked, and let's get it ready to show, without thinking, oh, I need to show this on our next video and we're filming tomorrow. So I put this in the wash yesterday. I put this in to soak and give it a good wash. And I got up this morning knowing that we were going to film, and I looked and this had soaked overnight, and I was like, well, you didn't plan that out very well. So it's still very damp, and it's going to go back in for another good soak and then a good blocking. But it's unfortunate because it's still wet and it just came out. It's looking it's not looking its best, and unfortunately the warping is more visible on it. So I wish I was showing you this in a better state, but it is what it is, and it's still a beautiful finish. I'm so delighted with it. So as you can see, all completely finished. All the stitching is done. Finished off this last corner along the bottom here, and it is looking really fantastic. I cannot quite believe it's done. So let me share a few stats with you on this project. So I started this on March 10th of 2019. I finished it November 5th of 2025. The total stitch count on this project is 221,600 stitches, and it had 36 pages in the chart. So I looked back, because I do keep a daily record of my stitch counts. I looked back to get a few more stats on this that I thought you all might find interesting. So this took 524 total days of stitching. That's how many days I stitched on this project. The most stitches I put in a one day was 1,754, which happened when I was at the very beginning working up in this sky here, and it was just these massive blocks of 2 or 3 different colors of blue. So that's a tremendous amount of stitches in one day. I still can't believe I got that many stitches in. And then the least stitches in a day, I had one day where I only put in 3 stitches. So I don't know what happened on that day. It was several years ago, but obviously it was not a successful stitching day. My daily stitch average was 422 stitches. So thought that was kind of interesting. And in 2025, I got in more stitches than I did in any other year. So over the course of 2025, I put in 38,005 stitches to bring it to the point of the finish. So this is, I cannot quite believe it's done. I was talking with someone, I forget who it was, but I was talking with someone on this trip that I was on, a colleague, and had shown them a picture of this because they were interested in seeing my big finish. And they were asking me, how did that feel, and what do you do when you finish a project? And so I was telling them, normally I just roll right on into the next one, but I was saying that with this one, I was really surprised that as I was getting down toward the end of the stitching, I was surprised at how emotional I started to feel about it. And I think it's just because this project has been with me for such a long time. It's been, I've been plugging away on it. There were many times and seasons where I just didn't feel like stitching on it, or I wasn't really enjoying it. And it felt like a slog, but I knew that I had to just kind of keep plugging away or it was never going to get finished. And, we've had a lot of life in the years that I've been working on this. And so just knowing what a big accomplishment it was and how much time I'd put into it, I was kind of surprised at how emotional I started to feel coming down toward the end of something that's been a part of my life for so long. But I'm really delighted with it. I have picked out my next full coverage project. This is not my first full coverage finish. My first full coverage finish was actually a lavender and lace project that I stitched for my mom almost 20 years ago. Almost 30 years ago. Oh, wow. So yeah, it was a project I stitched for my mom almost 30 years ago. And it was full coverage, but it wasn't this kind of full coverage. I mean, it was lavender and lace. It was probably 30,000, 50,000 stitches, something like this. So nothing near this size or complexity. So this is my first kind of like Heaven and Earth Designs type of full coverage finish. And it just feels like a massive accomplishment. So, as I said, I am going to put this back in the wash, give it a good soak, make sure it's really, really nice and clean. And then this one, I've got to block it because as you can see, my stitching technique has evolved and has improved. But unfortunately, when I started this project off, it kind of got warped early on, and that warping has continued over. It hasn't, it didn't get worse, but it hasn't improved. So I'm going to have to...
Sorry to interrupt. So how, you mentioned that you do that continental stitch, whatever, and I listen sometimes, but I thought that the point of that was to keep it from warping, but Correct. You've been using continental stitch in this, right?
For a long time.
Can you clear that up for me?
I can.
Thank you.
Yeah. So probably right around in this row of pages, I switched to half stitch and continental stitch. And for those who don't know, half stitch is you're stitching your half stitches from left to right. Continental stitch, you're still stitching half stitches, but you stitch them from right to left. And what it does is it pulls in the opposite direction, and it creates an even tension all the way across the project. When I was stitching up in this row of pages, I was stitching half stitches across, but instead of, I was doing a modified version of the continental stitch that wasn't actually pulling in the opposite direction. It was still pulling in the same direction. So it's hard to explain, but when I do continental stitch now, I still stitch from top to bottom. When I was doing it before, I was stitching I stitched from bottom to top. When I was stitching it before, I was stitching one way. When I did the half stitch from left to right, I would stitch from bottom to top. And then when I would go back down, I would stitch from top to bottom. And what that was essentially doing was pulling everything in the same direction instead of pulling one direction, one row, and then the other direction and the other row. So I was not getting that kind of counterbalancing in the tension. It's probably super confusing the way I've explained it, but Yeah, and the other thing that I have learned is this particular piece of Lugana, I would never choose this as the base fabric for stitching a full coverage project again. It's a nice piece of fabric, but the Luganas that I'm stitching my full coverage projects on now are a bit stiffer and denser, and they've got enough body to hold up. Whereas this one, because it was so soft and loose, it didn't really have enough body to kind of hold up. So this project has definitely been a learning experience for sure. So does that help answer your question?
Yes.
Are you less confused or more confused?
Well, I actually asked more for the audience than myself.
Okay.
I was thinking about action figures and pictures while you were answering.
Glad you were listening to me.
I heard it all.
Ah,
I have to edit the video, so I'll hear it all again
you will.
in painful detail.
Oh my goodness. Extra sassy right now. Anyway, yeah, I probably don't need to belabor the points on this one, but it feels like such an accomplishment. Anyway, don't want to put it down, but it's time to move on to the next project. So that is my long-awaited finish on Rose Trellis. I know this has been a favorite for many of you. It's probably in terms of the number of comments that we get on the different projects that we work on. This gets, I think, more comments than any other project I've ever worked on. I think the only other project that kind of comes close in terms of comments is Gary's Louis Armstrong, which is also a big favorite of many of our viewers. So thank you to those of you. I know many of you have been with us since the very beginning, and so thank you for all your encouragement as I have made my way through this project. I'm really thrilled to have it finished. So there we go. All right. Pop that down here. Okay. So now we're gonna move on to the whips. And I'm gonna share, I think, 2 projects with you, and then we'll give Gary a chance to share his projects with you. So the first project I will show you is my monthly morning stitch for October. And my monthly morning stitch for October was Autumn Creek Mill. This is a Luca S kit, and I am using the kit Fabric and Floss. So the last time you saw this, it was late in October, so there's not a ton of progress to show you, but the last time you saw this, I had been starting to fill in more of the larger hot air balloon. I had been working in the sky and filling in background and stitching in more of the forest in the background. So here is where this ended up as of the end of October. So as I said, not a ton of progress made after the last time you saw this, because the last time we filmed, we were already fairly late in October, but I did get a little bit more progress. And I think probably the most, where you can see most of that is I filled in more of this background between the 2 balloons, and also started to fill in more of this second hot air balloon. So you're seeing more of that detail and kind of the striping in that balloon showing up. So in terms of total progress for the month of October, I managed to get in almost 1,300 stitches, which isn't as much as I would have liked, but it's still a decent showing considering that, you know, these monthly morning stitches are projects that I get in as much progress as I can during the month, but it's, you know, I don't always have time before I start work in the morning to put in stitches. So I'm pretty happy with where I am leaving this. It is a lovely project. It's going to be with me for a while, and I've really enjoyed it. So this one will now go away and will not come out again until the middle of next year when it's next up for its monthly morning rotation. But that is Autumn Creek Mill. So the next project I will show you is my monthly morning stitch for November. And this project is called Not Forgotten. This is another Luca S kit, and I am stitching it again with the kit Fabric and Floss. And this is a project I was really looking forward to spending some time on because I have stitched on it twice. I've had two months of progress on it, but I don't even think I had 1,000 stitches in it yet when it came up this time around, because both of the months that it was in rotation before, I just didn't get much stitching time on it. So I was really hoping to actually get some progress on it. The last time you saw it was at the end of May, and I had just really started stitching in the trees and the sky that were in the top left corner. So here is where it is as we're closing in on the end of November. I am absolutely delighted with how much progress I've made so far this month. I have managed just over 2,800 stitches so far in the month of November. And part of the reason why I got so many stitches was I took this with me as my travel project on this most recent trip. And so obviously with the long flights and the long layovers and so on, this got a lot of stitching time in airports and on airplanes, and that really helped to bring it along. So as you can see, I have filled in a lot more of the sky and the clouds up here. We're getting a lot more of the trees and the background, and I'm really, really thrilled with what I've been able to do so far, and I still have a few more days in the month of November to continue working on this. So one of the things I love about this project, I stitch on it in November and in May every year. That's my schedule on it. Obviously, because the theme of this is this beautiful field of poppies, and it's called Not Forgotten, it's clearly got a strong connection to what in the United States we call Veterans Day, in Britain and the Commonwealth countries is Remembrance Day. And it clearly kind of harkens back. It's that reminder of those who've lost their lives in fighting in wars. And so I stitch it in November kind of as my way of marking Remembrance Day, and then also in May because in the US that's when we have Memorial Day. And so it just feels like the appropriate time to stitch on a project with that kind of a theme. But I really am loving this. I'm just thrilled because this was a project that's really not gotten the love and attention that it deserves. And so it feels really good to have a nice solid start on it at this point. So that is where I am on Not Forgotten. All right, next is Gary is going to talk about what he's been working on.
I have been working on stuff. I've been working on a couple of things, and I lost my paper, so I don't remember how to say this, but we'll start first with unexpected visitors. That is, I gotta look at my phone now. It's by somebody who does design work in this area. Not this area, but in that area. Anyway, it's by Night Spirit Studios, and we're doing all the called for colors. There's only 3, but somehow I managed to get the brightest of white confused with regular white. So now the white on mine is the brightest of white. The last time you saw this, I believe I completed the top half and needed to start working on the bottom half. The interesting thing about that is I did complete the top half, but it was still less than 25% complete. So that tells me that most of the stitching is in the bottom 2 pages. So this is where I am now. And this is, I've done all the black on, I believe that's page 3. Wait, 1, 2, 3, yeah, I guess, well, from my perspective. It's page 3, so all the black has been done there. I need to fill in the white and the red, and then that page will be complete. And then there'll be one page left. But there is a lot of stitching, even with all of the black that's completed in there. Sorry, I was thinking about the next one I'm talking about, and it confused me. Anyway, even with all the black in there, I'm still only maybe 31% done. So there's still quite a bit of stitching left to do in this, a lot more than I had originally anticipated. Anyway, so that's where we are on Unexpected Visitors. The next one I'm working on is Louis Armstrong, and that's Stitching Jules Design. And I'm using the called for DMC, which is black. So, there you have it. This one is actually pretty interesting, mostly because of just where it is. Anyway, so the last time that you saw this, where was I? I meant to look at the picture to see where I was the last time. Okay, now I remember. The last time you saw this, I was, I think I had just finished the line that covers his nose. Like this, I'm just going all the way across, so it's like page 4 and then page 5. And 5 is very shallow, so I just do both pages. So anyway, I think I had to do the eyes. And that's where I was. So this is where I am now. And as you can see, I've completed the eyes. I think there's a little bit more work, a little bit more work above the left eye. But outside of that, it's just the forehead and his hair that's left. In that little corner there, you can see that I have to finish the top of his left ear too. But after that, I believe there's 5 more rows above where the eyes are now. And then the top will be done. And it gets closer because it's the top of his head, so it tapers. So we'll see what that means in terms of speed. I'm still not sure if I can get this done by the end of the year, but I know it won't be much past the end of the year. It all depends on what kind of effort I put into it. And I guess that's it for those guys. As far as the action figure goes, these guys are nothing special. I think I've even had them out before. I just like their color scheme. The one on the left is somehow Batman and Superman combined and became like a Green Lantern, Batman, Superman. Strange concept, but kind of cool looking fig. And then the other one, I had no intentions of buying. I think it's called Fulcrum or something like that. But it's called a mega figure because he's huge. But I had no intentions of buying it until I saw it at Ross for $7.99. So I bought it for $7.99. Anyway, so that's where that is. I don't think I have anything more constructive to say. I hope you found some of it constructive. That's my word for today, constructive. Anyway, I'm done. I'm going to turn you back over to my wife.
All right. So the next thing I'm going to show you is my sampler project. I am stitching Ernestine Briier 1909 by Reflet de Soie. And I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count lemon yellow linen by Zweigart using the DMC conversion. The last time you saw this, it was a brand new start and I had made, not very much progress on it. I had just started stitching in the leaves and part of the flower that are the motif that makes up the whole top left-hand corner of the design. So this is where I got to this month. Again, better progress, but not a ton of progress. This is just kind of fallen victim to, this is the project that I'm working on as I've been heading into travel. And so it didn't get all of the days that it normally would get, but still reasonably decent progress. I'm almost done with this big, beautiful pink flower here. I've finished this section, well, part of this section of leaves and kind of moved on to these little flower buds here. And I'm starting to move into the other parts of that section of flowers. But the stitching on this is pretty dense. And so it just, it just takes more time, but it's so pretty. It's just such a beautiful design. And I really, really love this. This has been a project that has been sitting in my kitted up, projects for a long time waiting for me to get to it. And so I am really happy to be working on it at last. This is a project, and I shared this in our last video when the first time you saw this. I am stitching this project as a memorial project for my paternal grandmother. The moment I saw it, it looked like grandma. And so I'm thinking about her and remembering her when I work on this project. And I intend, as I get down to the bottom and it comes time to put the name in, I will put in her name and her information just to as a in memory of her. She's been gone for many years now, but I still have many wonderful memories of my grandma. So this is being stitched in honor of her. Okay. The next project that I will show you is my wild card stitch. This is another sad and neglected project, but you know what? They get done when they get done. So I am working on Cabin Fever. This is a Dimensions Gold Collection kit. I am using the kit Fabric and Floss. And this is a project that I am getting close to the finish. I have around, I think, just less than 4,000 stitches to go to finish this. So the last time you saw this, I was continuing to work on the big chunk of stitching at the bottom of the design, where the cabin is being reflected in the pond. I had also made some good progress toward the right side of the design, where the pathway next to the cabin comes down through the trees and comes down to the waterfront. So here's where we are right now. So I took this project with me to Nairobi, and that's part of the reason why you can see I didn't make a ton of progress. I think I got maybe 12 or 1,300 stitches total in on this last rotation. So I filled in more of this reflection section down here, worked a little bit in the reflection over here, but that's really all I got done. I didn't have a chance to do any back stitching. And yeah, so it's a little bit of progress. It's not a ton of progress, but 1,300 stitches is not too bad, all things considered, even if I would have liked to get more on it. So it is coming along. The next time this comes up in rotation, I'm really hoping to give it some focus time. I also am really hoping to get some good chunks of the back stitch in, because I would really like to not have a ton of back stitch waiting for me when I get to the last of the stitching in this corner. But this is where it is. It is a beautiful project. I am excited to get it across the finish line and move on to a new wildcard project. But this has been a really beautiful project to work on, and I'm still enjoying it. So that is where I am on my Cabin Fever. And then the last whip that I have to share with you is my weekend stitch. So I am working on Butterfly Port Mauve by Heaven and Earth Designs. I am stitching this on a piece of 28 count white easy grid Lugana 2/1 using a combination of half stitch and continental stitch, which we talked about earlier. And this is one of those really long-term projects that's starting to really show some good progress. So the last time you saw this, I was at about 42,600 stitches, and I am currently at around 45,800. So I put in about 3,200 stitches since the last time you saw this. The reason why I got so many stitches in this was because after I finished Rose Trellis in, I wanted to, this project has really fallen behind my stitch goals for the year on it. And so before I start my next full coverage project, I really wanted to put in some time on this to help get it caught up. So we're not quite caught up yet, but we are getting close. And this is where it is right now. So the last time you saw this, I had been working in, I was almost finished filling in this little violet down here, and had been working on filling in these leaves. So as you can see now, this violet is completely filled in, the leaves are now filled in, and I have put in a lot of more of this background that comes in below that little section of flowers. Also, the interesting thing with this is we're now far enough down on this column that there are no other design elements. So all the way to the bottom now of this column is just background. So it's that stitching tends to go a little bit faster. That doesn't mean it's going to be done anytime soon, but it is, yeah, we are now back down into just the background, and we'll continue to be in background until we move into this next column of pages. But it is coming along. I'm really excited to be getting, to be at 45,000, almost 46,000 stitches on this. I would love to have it at 48,000 stitches by the end of the year. So that will take some concentrated stitching time. I am going to put some more time on it when we get into December. So I think that's reasonable that I will probably get it to that point or pretty darn close. And then in December, I'm planning to start my next full coverage project, which, as I said, I have picked out. And I'm expecting that will be a stitch along. So stay tuned. You will probably see that. If not in our next video, you'll certainly see it before we hit the end of the year as I get started on that. But this is where I am on Butterfly Port Mauve. So that is all for whips, but I do have one new start to show you all, and that is in my seasonal category. So as I showed you earlier, I finished the spring delivery project by Scattered Seed Samplers and mentioned that that project has a companion stitch. And so when I finished spring delivery, I started the companion project, which is Spring Gathering. Again, this is by Scattered Seed Samplers. I'm stitching it on the same piece of 40 count Celestine linen by Fiber on a Whim. And I got a really good start on this. So this is where we are right now. So this is a beautiful lady rabbit who will be the companion to the gentleman rabbit. And while he has a basket of chicks, she has a basket full of flowers. So you can see that I have now outlined the lady rabbit. I started filling her in. We've got some alphabet here as well as some pretty little pink quilt stars, and I started stitching in the handle of her basket. So she is really sweet and really pretty, and I've enjoyed working on her so far. So that is where I am on this, my new start, Spring Gathering. So that is about it. I'll tell you a little bit about travel and then talk about our plans over the next couple weeks, and we'll get you on to your next Flosstube video. So as I said, I spent a week in Nairobi for work. There's not really a whole lot to report on that trip because it was just meetings in our office there, and so very busy week, very long days. Didn't get out and do anything fun or exciting that was not work related. So not a whole lot to share with you there, although I did want to share one thing that was really fun or really cute. When I was at the airport leaving Seattle to go on this trip, as I was walking through the airport, there was somebody who had their corgi who was going on the flight with them. And it was the most adorable thing because this little corgi was, just like waddling along. And every time he would come to like a seam between the floor tiles, he would stop and he would kind of gear himself up, and then he would hop over the seam, and then he'd waddle onto the next seam, and he'd stop, then he'd hop over that seam, and it was the cutest thing. I could not believe it. So like that was literally the only thing I have to share from that trip. Nothing else of note happened, but I thought that was adorable. Let's see. And then I am getting ready to go on my next trip. So I'm home for a week. I'm home for Thanksgiving. And then right after Thanksgiving, I'm heading out on my last work trip of the year. So Saturday after Thanksgiving, I am flying out to Dubai. I'll be there for not quite a week for meetings, and then come home and we'll wrap up, we'll get focused on wrapping up some work for the year, but looking forward to taking a little bit of a break during the holidays, at least a break from work. Won't be a break from busyness, but looking forward to that. So as far as stitching plans, got some fun things coming up. I am going to be spending a week working on my Fancy Lady, which is County Fair. And it's kind of fun because that's a very autumnal feeling project, and I am going to be working on that during Thanksgiving week. So I'll be stitching on all the bounty on the ladies' table during the week of Thanksgiving, and that's kind of a perfect timing for working on a project like that. Then I will be working on my my new start that you've just seen, Spring Gathering. I'm going to be taking that with me to Dubai. I don't know that it's going to get a whole lot of progress just because I know it's going to be another busy trip with a lot of meetings, but we'll see if I get some time to work on it while I am there. I'm going to spend a few more days as we wind down November putting in time on Not Forgotten. And then we'll be getting started on my December monthly morning stitch, which is going to be Lady at the Window. And I'm really looking forward to getting back to her. And then, of course, we'll continue working on my weekend stitch, Butterfly Port Mauve. As far as Gary, he's going to continue to plug away on Louis Armstrong and...
Unexpected Visitors.
Thank you.
It's the scene where the aliens are destroying a farm setting place.
Yeah. Yes.
It's unexpected.
I don't even know what to say about that. Nothing says festive like aliens destroying your farm.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Anyway, I think that does it for us. Thank you, as always, for coming to spend time with us. We hope that you've enjoyed the visit. If you did, please consider giving our video a thumbs up. Please feel free to leave a comment. We do read all of them and at least try to put a heart on them. And we really enjoy interacting with you. I can't tell you how many times your comments uplift us, encourage us, make us laugh. And so we really do enjoy those. So thank you for those. If you would like, you can send us an email at to globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. I also try to periodically post updates between videos on Instagram, and you can follow me there. I'm globetrotting_stitcher. So with that, we will close it out for today. If you're in the United States, we hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, that you are surrounded by things that give you cause for gratitude. And we will look forward to seeing you very soon. So take care and happy stitching. Bye for now.